Good evening. Welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines. Parent power campaigners celebrate after plans to turn their school into an academy are thrown out. But what now for other schools in our region?
Lucky to be alive, the man who's cheated death not just once, but 5 times.
A class at the school where pupils are learning how to grow grapes and make their own wine.
And luxury beside the sea. Beach huts are going upmarket, but at what price? Good evening. Parents have been celebrating today after controversial plans to turn a Sussex school into an academy were dramatically thrown out. The head teacher of Hove Park had been the driving force behind conversion.
But late in the day, he advised governors to vote against the plan to avoid what he called unrest and disruption at the secondary school. Well, Malcolm Shaw has our report.
We count 1, yay!
Celebrations at the school gates after campaigners heard the news that Hove Park will not become an academy. After a meeting lasting 2 hours, governors voted unanimously to throw out the plan. The secondary school will stay under the control of the local authority.
Absolutely delighted. Couldn't it be better news for the school and for the local community, and also for Brighton Hove, because there's no appetite for academies at all.
It's just brilliant. And there we are, 17-0, unanimous. They must be wondering whoever come up with this idea in the first place.
There's been a series of protests since the head teacher first suggested the school should become an academy. Teachers went on strike over the issue, and a poll organised by the City Council showed that 71% of parents were against conversion. In a dramatic turn of events last night, the head advised the governors to ditch the plan, saying that forging ahead could cause unrest and disruption.
There are many people, perhaps not as vocal as some of the No campaign, but many people who felt that this could offer a choice of a way forward. And I think what we need to do as we pause and reflect and think about where we go from here is how we unite that, how we bring that together to make a powerful force for change for the good.
Previously, the head teacher had argued that academy status could help improve the children's education and pave the way for buildings to be upgraded too. So why did the governors abandon it?
We've had to consider the level of opposition, but primarily for governors, we believe there are other options out there now that might be more attractive to pursue the vision for Hove Park in the future.
Whose school? Our school.
Many schools across our region have already become academies, but here it seems conversion is now firmly off the curriculum. Malcolm Shaw, ITV News, Hove.
So what might this mean for other schools in our region? Well, our social affairs correspondent, Christine Alsford, joins us from our newsroom. Christine, what are the wider implications here?
Well, this campaign does show that people power can sometimes win the day, and the outcome was certainly being watched very closely by other schools in the region considering a similar route. Now, what it's shown is that when opposition is so strong and loud like it was here, it can actually make a difference. Parents, the council and staff all protested, and there was even a demonstration by pupils on the playing fields. Now, the governors here have listened, so others elsewhere might do the same.
So are we going to see fewer schools wanting to go down the academy route now because of this?
Possibly. This fight has certainly been time-consuming and damaging, and head teachers will want to spend their time running good schools and focusing on teaching and learning, not becoming embroiled in bitter public disputes. But let's not forget that hundreds of schools, as many as 75% of secondaries in some parts of our region, have already opted out of local authority control with the support of parents and the community. And more schools are still being encouraged to go the same way. A major report published today says primary schools should convert because it will improve performance and give them more freedoms. Now, academisation is a flagship government policy, but all the Department for Education has said today is that the decision was rightly made by governors who consulted widely, and they wish the school the very best as they continue to improve standards of education in Brighton and Hove. But this unexpected result has certainly become a reminder that if you're prepared to fight hard enough for what you believe in, you might just win.
Christine Alsford, thank you very much indeed. More on that story and the rest of the day's news can be found 24 hours a day on our website. On your smartphone or tablet, scan the code on the screen now to be taken straight there, or on your computer, just search for ITV Meridian.
Well, more of the day's news now, and only 1/3 of rail passengers are happy with the way their train company deals with delays or cancellations. That's according to a survey by customer watchdog Passenger Focus. A common complaint was information on Twitter was more up to date than at railway stations. Rail companies say they are making improvements.
And the key driver of that dissatisfaction is how delays are dealt with. It comes back again and again. C2C gets a lot of its trains on time, so they have less opportunity to have to get, to give passengers messages. Southern and Southeastern, huge numbers of passengers, very complex networks. This is where the change has got to happen.
Drivers on the Isle of Wight are being warned Cowes Floating Bridge will be closed to cars for 3 nights starting tomorrow. A pedestrian-only service will operate between 8 o'clock in the evening until 12:30 a.m, while road resurfacing work is carried out on Medina Road.
Families with overweight children are being offered help and support from a new fitness programme. The 10-week course in Andover is aimed at 5 to 7-year-olds. Parents are taught ways to manage their child's diet and lifestyle, while the children are encouraged to get more active.
People in Sussex are being consulted about the future of Hastings seafront. Plans are afoot to bring new investment and jobs to the area, and a public drop-in session will be held at the Pier Hub on Saturday.
Now, it sounds like something out of a Hollywood blockbuster. A man who cheats death several times after ordinary situations take a turn for the worst.
But falling 100 feet off a steep cliff into the sea and being run over twice have all happened in real life to one man from Surrey. Juliet Fletcher's been talking to the man who says he feels blessed.
Accident prone or just unlucky. Gary Ashton was on a stag do in Cornwall when he fell 100 feet down the side of a cliff. He was unconscious for several hours and woke up knee-deep in water. Today, back home in Frimley, he told us how he'd managed to survive the ordeal.
I fell on my bum, slid down. Where the moonlight was, I could see the edge coming, and I could see that it was a bit of a long way down, really. I just thought, I just went, and I remember the wind getting louder and louder in my ears as I was going down. I remember the flood at the bottom, and it wasn't until the tide was coming in about 5 o'clock in the morning that sort of woke me up, really, with water coming around me.
And it's not the first time Gary has had a brush with death. In fact, he's survived 2 car accidents, electrocuting himself on a plug and breaking his back in an accident at work. Here in Frimley is where his run of bad luck began. Gary, what happened here then?
Well, basically I was 12 years old and it was my paper round, and I used to deliver up from that road up there, Tintagel Drive, and coming out from there I kind of, down the hill, as you can imagine, on a push bike, picked up quite a lot of speed really, and there was a car like on my side of the road, if you know, and so I sort of hit him in the bonnet and sort of over the top.
Were you badly hurt?
No, not at all. Well, my teeth went through my lip, but that was it really.
Gary's happy-go-lucky attitude has meant he's become a bit of a local celebrity. He managed to fall over again the night before our interview, but he admits the accident in Newquay was his closest shave so far. Do you feel like you're quite lucky to be alive now then?
Yeah, totally. Very much so, yeah, I really do. And I just kind of like, yeah, I just feel blessed, if anything, I really do, you know. Definitely someone looking over me.
Gary's motto is be lucky, and he certainly is. Juliet Fletcher, ITV News, Frimley.
I'll be less accident prone, I think. Yeah. Goodness me.
Be lucky indeed. Well, you are watching ITV News Meridian. Coming up, Sarah Gom with the sports news, plus
planting a living legacy for the fallen troops of the Great War.
For more on all of our stories, head to our website, itv.com/news/Meridian. You could always give us a call, join us on Facebook or on Twitter.
Well, some more headlines now from around the region, and some motorists affected by what they claim was contaminated diesel bought from a Tesco filling station in Poole say the supermarket giant has now provided them with hire cars and arranged for their vehicles to be examined. Dozens of motorists reported their cars breaking down after filling up in Branksome. Tesco says fuel tests are ongoing and complaints are being dealt with on a case-by-case basis.
A charity in Hampshire is appealing to people to stop fly tipping outside its shop. People have been dumping unsellable items outside the Phyllis Tuckwell Hospice in Farnham. It says it's costing them hundreds of pounds in rubbish disposal fees.
Online shopping deliveries in the south are predicted to increase by 25% by 2018. The new report by Barclays suggests as more people use smartphones and tablets to place orders, demand will rise. And they believe 178 million deliveries will be made a year in our region. And that's just for me, I think.
Now, Ed Miliband told his party conference in Manchester today there'd be a big increase in spending on the health service if Labour win the election.
It was one of a string of promises he hopes will win votes in crucial marginal seats across the south. Well, Phil Hornby has our report now.
This was a speech aimed not at the party faithful in the hall, but at the living rooms of Southampton and Oxford, where Labour must hold on next May, and the living rooms of Reading and Portsmouth, of Crawley and Brighton and Hove, all areas where Labour won under Tony Blair, areas which all returned Tory MPs at the last election. If this man's to become Prime Minister, he has to win them back next May.
I don't see a sentiment across the South East that people are flocking towards the Tories at this moment in time. So I agree that
Labour... flocking to Labour?
Well, what we have to do today, and Ed has to do, is really show a sense of mission. I'm convinced he will show that sense of mission.
The centrepiece of his speech, a promise of a big increase in spending on the NHS.
3,000 more midwives, 5,000 more care workers, 8,000 more GPs and 20,000 more nurses. An NHS with time to care.
It'll be funded partly by a so-called mansion tax on properties worth more than £2 million. There are more than 14,000 of them in our region. Mr Miliband knows many voters here in the north are on his side. The key question is, can he emulate Tony Blair and break through in the south?
I'm very keen that we push on and take the Labour message and build up the Labour votes, even in those communities where we don't get a lot of votes at the moment. I think with what Ed Miliband is doing, the way that we're addressing the millions of hard-working people in the south who don't think they're getting a fair deal, Labour's got a great future ahead of us in southern England.
We're ready. Labour's plan for Britain's future. Let's make it happen together.
He is ahead in the polls, but especially in our region, he still has a mountain to climb. 7.5 months to go. Phil Hornby, ITV News, Manchester.
Oh, it's 14 minutes past 6. Let's cross now to London to find out what's making the national news headlines. With the details, here's Alistair Stewart.
The United States and several Arab countries strike ISIS targets inside Syria. Volleys of missiles from US warships and a multinational air force struck overnight. We'll have the latest. Here, Ed Miliband rallies his troops ahead of the election. Low pay and the NHS. He says, together, we can do it. Broadcaster Dave Lee Travis found guilty of indecently assaulting a woman nearly 20 years ago. And the father of Alice Gross thanks the community for help in trying to find his daughter. Join Nina Hussain and me at 6:30.
News just coming into us here. Rail services on the Isle of Wight have been disrupted after a lorry collided with a bridge between Brading and Sandown. The lorry has damaged the bridge and all rail services have been suspended. More on this on our website, itv.com/Meridian, and of course on our late news.
Now, at some schools nowadays, it's unusual to have your own playing fields, but how about your own vineyard?
Well, pupils at a boarding school in Sussex are learning the science, production and art of winemaking. And they've got their own vintage to prove it. Andy Dickinson reports.
It's definitely not your common or garden classroom pursuit, but pupils at this public school are certainly learning to differentiate their grape from the grain, producing their own bottles of wine from their own school vineyard.
We are quite a unique school. We like to do things a little bit different from most of the schools in the area, if not most of the schools in the country. It's nothing about consuming alcohol here. This is a business. This is a part of a business plan and a business project that the school has.
With wines from our region proving ever more popular, this then is an exercise in business and marketing as well as production, and it's already yielding impressive results. The vineyard capable of producing around 1,000 bottles, all profits donated to the school's international charity.
My parents were really interested, and so they were really shocked when I told them that I did the label. So the whole family wanted a bottle, of course.
The Buxford wine itself is solely for a charitable investment, as it were, to help our Swansea school, our sister school, and we do a lot of fundraising for it as well. So it's quite a nice thing to be involved in, and plus it looks great for university as well.
Because of the annual growing cycle, every year a new group of students will be able to gather more knowledge from these grapes, all under the watchful eye of an award-winning winemaker.
You can follow a product all the way from the growing of it through the production of it and onto the sales and the marketing of the product. And students can get involved in nearly every aspect of that. So for me it made a lot of sense, but I must admit, to begin with I was slightly surprised.
But the most important question is, of course, how does it taste?
It's a very typical English wine. It's light, it's fruity, and it's refreshing, and it goes fantastically with the local fish from this region too.
These pupils having to wait before they get to try their own tipple. Andy Dickinson, ITV News, Guestling.
Yeah, it was never like that at my school.
But probably a good thing it wasn't like that at my school. I might have enjoyed lessons far too much.
That's true. You in a vineyard could be dangerous.
Very.
Now, it's described as a living legacy to mark the sacrifice made by many thousands of our servicemen in the First World War.
The Centenary Gardens project will see trees and flowers planted all over the country as part of the events marking the 100th anniversary of the conflict. It will also raise money for the Poppy Appeal, as Bob Cruz now reports.
Give fools their gold and knaves their power. Let fortune's bubbles rise and fall. Who sows a field or trains a flower or plants a tree is more than all. That's an extract from an old poem which celebrates the virtue of planting and nurturing something which will develop and grow for the future. 100 years after the start of the First World War, the Royal British Legion wants the whole country to help grow a lasting, living legacy as a tribute to those who fought and died. The Centenary Gardens project was the idea of Francis and Julian de Bosdari, whose nursery will be providing all the flowers, shrubs and trees for people to plant.
They grow a memory. When you've planted a tree, although the tree moves, the memory of the planting doesn't. So I remember the first tree that I planted with my father, who died in 1979, much better than I remember him, really. And I think, therefore, that planting trees is a wonderful way of taking memories forward.
The idea is to buy a flower or tree through the Centenary Gardens website, which will then be packaged up and posted so you can plant it at home or somewhere special in your community. At least 50% of the profits will go to the Royal British Legion.
The opportunity to remember those who fell during the First World War, and with the funds going on into the Poppy Appeal as it is now, it's going to help so many serving forces members who require their help these days. So it's just absolutely amazing idea.
There won't be too many people with a garden big enough to accommodate something like this, but for a community group or a school perhaps, what could be better than the good old English oak tree? This could live to 500, maybe 1,000 years, and that really is planting for the future. My own contribution isn't quite on that scale, but ably assisted by a 2-year-old with a trowel, we've put in some crocus bulbs, an appropriately named variety called Remembrance, which should act as an annual reminder when their purple flowers appear each spring. Bob Cruz, ITV News.
Yeah, high five to Mini Bob there, well done. Now the sport with Sarah Gom. Busy night ahead and interesting times for Reading.
Yes, indeed, Andrew. Thank you. Sir John Medeski says the future at Reading Football Club is bright following confirmation on Friday that the club has now been taken over. Speaking to us at the Medeski Stadium today, the now co-chairman says he's excited about this new chapter in the club's history. He's been at the helm of his beloved club since 1990 and now believes he's placed it in safe hands with the financial ability to take Reading back to the top flight. After months of uncertainty, the backing comes from an Asian consortium led by Thai businesswoman and New Royals co-chairwoman Kunying Sasima.
I'm just so pleased that we've now got certainty around the club now, and we've got some fantastic new shareholders that have come in. And I'm just over the moon because the hopes and aspirations that we've always had is pursuit of excellence and getting back into the Premier League just as soon as we can. It's not changed at all. It's just now we have some individuals that are happy to help us with our task.
Sir John began his search for investment last year when Anton Zingarovic pulled out of a deal to complete a full takeover shortly after Reading were relegated from the Premier League.
It's a great consortium because they're all very pleasant people, very busy people, very established people. They all speak incredibly good English, and you know, they're just at the top of their powers, if you like, and they've decided to invest with us in Reading Football Club, which is great news for Reading Football Club and the fans and everybody else.
And fans can rest assured with the knowledge that Sir John will remain as co-chairman, determined to maintain the community values he's ingrained at the club.
I'll be out there in the community promoting Reading Football Club as I always have done, and just community, and I think you know, that's what I've always done, and that's you know, and I like the club being a community club, which is you know, it's one of the nicest clubs in the country, and it's taken 25 years to get to that, and you know, we're just more of the same. But going back to our new friends, it's just so nice to have this security going forward, and I'm so pleased for the fans, for all the people who work at Reading Football Club, the manager and the players and everybody else, so it's great.
Yes, and fans are hoping for more reasons to be cheerful tonight when Reading are in action in the third round of the Capital One Cup. They are at Derby, while Southampton travel to Arsenal, and Bournemouth are also away. They play Cardiff. In the Johnston's Paint Trophy, Swindon are at Newport. Bart's Bash, the global sailing race organised by the Andrew Simpson Sailing Foundation, which took place on Sunday, has set a new Guinness World Record for the largest ever sailing race. So far, the results from more than 3,500 boats have been collated, which took part across 768 venues, with the focus being on the waters off Weymouth and the home of the foundation. Berkshire-based sailor Catherine Granger has announced she's coming out of retirement in a bid to see if she's got what it takes to qualify for the Rio Olympics. The 38-year-old is a four-time Olympic medalist who won gold in the double sculls at 2012. She's hardly rowed since, but now says she literally wants to test the waters. Finally, in cricket, Hampshire's bid for promotion from Division 2 reaches its climax this week. The county must beat Glamorgan to secure promotion. They got off to a bit of a shaky start in their first innings this morning, but have recovered. And it's all dependent on what Essex do as well. So a nervy few days ahead, but we'll watch that one with interest.
It'll all be all right though, Sarah.
Of course it will.
Of course. Thank you very much, Sarah. Now on the south coast, it seems our appetite for a wooden box to sit in, get changed or have a cup of tea in seems to know no bounds.
Yes, at Mudderford in Dorset, sleep-in beach huts have been going on the market this year for more than £200,000.
Now, neighbouring Bournemouth plans to get in on the act by building a new row of overnight stay huts. It's the first time in the resort's history visitors will be able to sleep so close to the sea. Here's Martin Dowse.
Just over 6 months ago, many of Bournemouth's 2,000 wooden beach huts were littering the seafront, smashed to pieces by the St Valentine's Day storm. But the clear-up, repairs and replacements were swift. Such is the importance of these iconic structures to the whole look of the resort's front window. Municipal beach huts have been a part of Bournemouth since 1909. Since the 1950s, the number and style of huts has stayed roughly the same, but now it seems a new beach hut era may be dawning. These 18 new so-called super huts Empty wooden shacks for changing and picnicking, but with a super price tag of £40,000 each, recently sold out within 3 weeks of going on sale. Now Bournemouth Council plans to follow this up with the resort's first ever sleep-in overnight huts.
This is going to be more glamping than camping. These are going to be like a hotel room. You're going to have a mezzanine floor with a double bed on it. It's going to be a bathroom area. There's going to be a little kitchenette, and if you want to bring the kids too, you can sleep up to 4 other people downstairs.
These 33 temporary huts at Southbourne will be moved to make way for the new overnight huts. Perhaps Bournemouth has cast an envious eye over at neighbouring Muddyford Spit, where sleep-in beach huts have been changing hands for increasingly crazy prices for years, and decided it wanted a piece of that action. But the council says this is all part of a strategy to bring the seafront into the 21st century, and the new huts will only be for holiday let rather than to buy, though the rental price isn't being revealed yet.
No, we're not looking to compete in that market at all, and we're not trying to do anybody out of a hut. What we're trying to do is increase the offer that Bournemouth has.
Subject to planning permission, work will start on the new overnight huts in the late autumn, with them ready for their first tenants by next spring. Martin Dowse, ITV News, Bournemouth.
Well, a bit further along the south coast, at a beauty spot in Sussex, walkers have been warned by the Coast Guard to take extra care.
Yes, a large crack has appeared in the side of a cliff at Seaford Head. It follows a series of chalkfalls on that stretch of coastline earlier on in the year.
We did see some big cliff falls this year, but the cliffs here are prone to erosion, continually. It's not an unusual, thing for these cliffs to crumble. But yes, I think perhaps this year we have seen an acceleration in erosion along this stretch of coastline. And the advice is simple: stay away from the cliff edges, but similarly stay away from the cliff bases.
So watch out for that. And someone else to watch out for now. Someone who's always bringing us questions and answers. It's Simon.
Yeah, I'm not that much of a danger, though.
No, maybe.
Tricky question for you, though. Have a look at this picture, sent in by Greg Parker from Bockenhurst. Can you guess what it is? I'll give you a clue. The blue thing down the front there is a peg.
Oh.
Peg.
Oh. So it's a clothesline
Right.
with something odd on it. And if you have a closer look, you can see it's actually some very carefully arranged eggs. Hats off to his wife, Helga, who spotted them. Her first thought was they were going to be spider's eggs, but it actually turns out that they are moth eggs. Look, so you see the little tiny caterpillars coming out. Speaking of caterpillars, we don't know what this is, so it really is a mystery. From Patricia in Twyford in Berkshire, anyone know what that strange creature is going to turn into? And here's possibly the laziest one in the region. Jessica Wilkins in Coalhill in Dorset spotted this one trying to catch a lift. Not sure it's the best plan, but have a look at this that Chris Shelton found. That there is a wasp on top of a caterpillar. He's intrigued to know what he's doing. Meridian weather at ITV.com if you happen to know.
Thank you very much indeed. Right then, let's find out what's going on with the weather. Here's Simon.
That's us driving on, us driving off in France, and us on the bridge.
Driving to Europe. Eurotunnel Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Now, what were you doing this morning at 3:29? If you said sleeping, then you missed the autumnal equinox. But don't worry too much about it because, well, there's not a huge amount of autumnal weather to be had. So we've got high pressure in charge. A weak weather front slipping southwards overnight tonight, just bringing a bit of cloud and some showery outbreaks of rain. Once that's out of the way, we get the next lot of high pressure ushering itself in from the west. And that means very settled conditions as we head into the weekend. It'll even get a bit warmer again. Back to tonight, and we've got clear spells to begin with. But as that cloud thickens up, we'll see the temperatures staying in double figures, so nowhere near as cold as it's been for the last couple of nights. And some showery outbreaks of rain, generally quite light, nothing of any note. Might still be around first thing tomorrow morning, but clearing pretty quickly southeastwards and behind. Things will brighten up quite nicely. There is a risk of a few showers as we head through tomorrow, but mostly it's a dry story and with some good sunny spells. Temperatures up to around 18, 19 degrees, though quite a fresh northwesterly breeze. And then your high tide times, well, you can see in Bognor, just the one around 10 past 12. And then it stays settled into the weekend.
Eurotunnel Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
A little bit autumnal, I think. Well, in just a moment, the national and international news with Alistair Stewart and Nina Hussain.
For now, from the team here at ITV Meridian, thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.
Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.